chambers, and we have no connectivity on our microphones.
Oh, there it goes.
Oh, there you go.
Wait.
Got it now.
It's on.
Somebody just worked the magic.
Okay. Must have been 4 o'clock. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Go ahead, Josh.
All right. Thank you. All right. Bye now.
All right, it's just after 4 o'clock, and the ad hoc committee for council rules of procedure will now open. I am the committee chair, Josh Palmer. On the committee with me is Dennis Hellman and Dan DeArmond. There will be no public comment during this meeting. We will be discussing potential rules changes and finalizing those so that at the next meeting we can approve them. Dan, you have a presentation for us? Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to read my comments like I did last meeting, just so that they're be included in part of the meeting minutes. So I just want to start by defining the goal of City Council and the goal of the general public in defining a process for public input. With these goals defined, we can structure our rules to try to accommodate everybody. Crafting a good process that meets both goals is a challenging and complex task, and I ask for your patience and an open mind. Okay, so I think the goal of City Council is to create an environment where we can conduct the city's business with minimal distraction. Respectful public input is not considered a distraction. It is welcomed and help inform our decision-making process. Based on comments received and the petition currently being circulated, I believe the public's goal is to be able to express their views during city council meetings in an expanded time frame with no limitation on content. In addition to being heard, they would like responses to questions and concerns. So let's keep these goals in mind as we work through this process. So at the last meeting, we discussed the timing of public comments. So speakers addressing agenda-specific items would be invited to the podium while that topic is being addressed by council. Non-agenda items would be discussed towards the end of the meeting, after new business, but before we adjourn. So that concept seemed to be positively received by this committee and will be included in the recommendation going forward. I appreciate Patty Klein's thoughtful comments on the structure of the speaker form. I don't know if Patty's here, but especially as they relate to tying responses to public comments back to the ward council representatives. This can enhance communication and establish accountability for response. I would like to include Mrs. Klein's draft speaker form in the minutes of this meeting. We'll probably edit it a little bit, but I just like the general concept of tying that back to the ward representative. There was an individual concerned about doxing. I don't really think that request holds any water in today's internet and information society, because you can get on the internet and find out people's addresses pretty quickly. But we can easily accommodate the request by only asking for the speaker's name and the resident's ward on the form. So on the back page, folks, I included Patty's communication form that she submitted last time. So basically, it's, I asked for the person's name, the ward number they live in. They can either give their phone or their email address. They want to know, wish to address what issue they want to address. Submitters requested action, so if they want action from their ward council person, they can request it there. And then there's a follow-up section at the bottom, action taken by council representative. So all the dates, and so that was a good idea. So I'd like to include that as part of today's council meeting minutes. Okay, so there was a comment made during last city council meeting about why council has the right to make its own rules and that the public should make the rules for us to follow. I guess my response to that is, you elected us to represent you to conduct the city's business. So by law, we need to meet on a regular basis to conduct this business. Council needs a controlled, civil environment for us to do our work with minimal distractions. So legally, we're allowed to set our meeting parameters to create this environment. So I'm going to take a pause, take comments from the committee or from our legal counsel. If there's any issues you want to Everybody okay with any of those comments, or? You good? Or,
No, I'm just gonna say, personally, I think you did a nice job, Dan. I think it looks good, it's concise, it addresses, most of the major concerns, I think, that were brought up, at least to this point in the discussions.
okay.
Thank you for your time and effort thus far.
Yeah, Dan. Oh, you done, Dan? Danny?
I am.
All right. Yeah, I like the idea of the forum that Patty Klein came up with. That's interesting, and I think we can find a way to make this work for our public comment section.
Okay. Okay, so the next section, there's 8 items, and it's all specific to time limits. Comments specific to an agenda item, these are my proposal. Okay, so comments specific to an agenda item would remain at 4 minutes. In my opinion, 4 minutes is a reasonable amount of time for speakers to express their opinion on a single topic. Speakers can address any item on the agenda, including committee reports. Comments not specific to an agenda item would be increased from 4 minutes to 6 minutes and would be made at the end of the meeting, like we discussed. An individual can only speak once during a meeting. If a speaker wishes to comment on multiple agenda items, they can choose to speak at the end of the meeting with a 6-minute time allowance. An individual can only speak once on the same agenda item. This means a speaker cannot speak at 3 meetings in a row on the same topic. Repetition does not add to the process and can take away the opportunity for others to speak. Public input would be allowed up to 60 minutes and not by the number of speakers, as is currently the rule. The President of Council shall make best effort to balance the number of speakers for or against an issue. The 60-minute clock starts when the first citizen starts to speak, runs continuously until they leave the podium, and includes question and answer time. So the 60-minute limit is cumulative of comment time spent on both agenda and non-agenda items. So just as an example, so if you're talking about an agenda item for 20 minutes and then another 20 minutes on another agenda item, there would only be 20 minutes left at the end of the meeting. So it'd be a cumulative total of 60 minutes on agenda and non-agenda items. The President of Council will have to utilize 2 stopwatches during council meetings to implement this. So it's a little cumbersome, I think, but so the 60 minutes and the 6 minutes came from the recent petition that's being circulated. So I was trying to accommodate that. So I'll take a pause for comments on that. From the committee?
So, Dan, if all 60 minutes were used up during the agenda item topics, there'd be no time for a general topic at the end under your proposal?
That's what was in the petition. That's why I just used that same language. Yeah, so it's 60 minutes of input time. You good?
Do you envision us having a timekeeper like they do at the NBA basketball games or something? I mean,
it's cumbersome.
I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah, it's cumbersome. I think, you could put it on the wall here so that the speaker and the president could, you can buy them on Amazon for $40. It's not a big expenditure item. And you have a remote control. You can start and stop, and so we have a speaker.
I'm not opposed, but I'm just wondering how you envision that being handled. It's fine.
I got one more thing.
Yeah, good.
Hey, Don, is there any issue potentially with limiting somebody to talking on an agenda item once during the 3 readings, over 3 consecutive meetings?
Not if you have a rule that says that.
Okay.
Just want to make sure the rule would be okay.
The whole thing is, I just don't want the same person.
This is your show right now.
Yeah.
So, you make those decisions.
Okay.
And so.
Well, this is just a proposal at this
Right,
point. But yeah.
right.
But I just didn't want the same person up there, on 3 meetings in a row, every time that that item is, if it's, a resolution or whatever being read 3 times. I just don't need to hear the same thing 3 times, so that was my only thought there.
Sure.
So, okay.
One other quick
Yeah,
thing, if I
sure.
might. The timing then also would include the answer.
Yes, yeah. If they're at the podium, the clock's running. They can sit down and stop the clock. I mean, the continuous, so. But I think it's healthy for them to be at the podium while we're discussing, because stuff comes up, they can ask questions, they can get, so. I don't think there's,
Okay.
So listen closely to this one. So the purpose of city council meeting is for council to conduct the city's business. Speakers will address only city council. Complaints, concerns, or questions about other elected officials, such as the auditor, law director, mayor, or council president, are not the business of city council. We are not here to defend or answer for other elected officials. Those issues should be handled by scheduling an appointment with that elected official. The podium in council chamber room should be oriented directly towards city council as a reminder to speakers of who their audience is. Separately, I have received concerns from my constituents in the business community that the public comment timeframe of our meeting is being used as a campaign platform for an individual to build political capital, and that this is not the forum. And that this forum is not an appropriate place for campaigning. So that's a big one. So we're narrowing the scope. I mean, this is just a city council. You got an issue with the mayor, take it up in her office. We're not here to defend her, and we're not here to do her business. Any comments? Go ahead. Yeah.
If you're looking for comments or
Sure.
input, I have had similar comments made to me, very much in the same layout that you've expressed here, that it has gone far beyond conducting the business of the city.
Yeah.
And the council's business is to do exactly that, conduct the business of city council, to run this community properly. So, you're not the only one.
All right. You good, Josh? Okay, onwards. And the next few are just some miscellaneous items. So, the president of council and clerk of council should screen out issues that don't directly involve city council. Two recent examples include, we had a zoning and private properties issue in Allen Township recently, and then another issue was, they were talking about Sunny Farms near Fostoria. Those seem like they're more like county commissioner issues. All speakers must live in the city of Findlay or represent companies that conduct business in Findlay. Another comment received by a council member recommended that we add a new section to the agenda called contractor communications. And that would be for contractors working directly for or within the city to address city council. So examples would be like Hancock Regional Planning Commission, and utility companies such as AEP, Columbia Gas, Hancock Wood, Metronet. They would be separate from public comment. I was asked about the sequence of events, and the recommendation from this council member would be like the sequence of events for an individual agenda item would be, we'd introduce the item, read the ordinance, whatever it was, and then it would open it for public comment. And then we would have motions and then discussion and then vote if that was appropriate that night. So it would be, so just kind of introduce it, then public comment would be up front and before we get into our motions and that kind of thing. And then finally, I would recommend once we get this draft final version from our committee that we would move forward with a pilot program for 2 months. So 4 meetings. Just to make sure we get it right. So the ad hoc committee would stay intact until the rules are finalized after the pilot. So let's just try it, see if we like it. If we need to tweak it, we can adjust later. And so we'd keep the ad hoc committee intact. After 2 months, we'd meet again, take comments, see how it works, and then we'd finalize it. And so I think that's the end of my presentation.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. I don't have a problem with that either, Dan, except the contractor's communications.
I think, is your mic on?
Hello?
Oh, there you go.
How's
Okay.
that?
All right.
Is the
Contractor communications?
contractor
Okay.
communications, it seems as though we're making an exception for contractors that are doing work here in the city. And I guess I'd like to think about that, because I'm not
Yeah.
too sure why we're doing that. You could do the same thing for restaurants, let's say, that are here serving the public.
If they had an issue with city council, they could address. Well,
But I
okay,
don't know, I just
sure.
I wanted
All
to
right.
think about it. I don't
Yeah,
want to just
okay,
give
yeah.
that carte blanche until
I
I
under-
figure
understand.
out what that's all about.
So right now, when would they address council? So if you're, I mean, we've listened to AEP and Columbia Gas and Metronet on, updates. Would that, you're suggesting, if it's not a separate, would that just be part of public comment? That would be part of the 60 minutes? Or
Well, those,
how do they, when, I'm not sure when, do you know, when on the agenda they typically address us now? When does AEP address us?
usually in the beginning, yeah.
Mainly the beginning,
Okay.
most of the time.
You know what, Dan?
But they're public
What I would do with that is I think just having them be subjected to the same time constraint of 4 minutes or whatever, and we can always extend it with a vote of council to suspend that rule, but they don't count against the 60 minutes. I think that's probably what you're trying to do, is keep that from counting against the 60
Yeah,
minutes.
I was gonna have a separate, just for, because we didn't want like Matt Cordonier coming down from HRP, and then.
Yeah, there goes the time for
Yeah,
public
right,
comment.
I was trying to keep the 60 minutes separate.
But I think if it's just to keep them away from the
Yeah.
cumulative 60 minutes, I think
Right.
that's a good idea.
But Dennis, I'm open to that. I mean, this is up for, some.
And if I might, the comments regarding that, a public utility is a little bit different than, a fellow pouring concrete for sidewalks or something along those lines, than a contractor, I guess is what
Oh.
I'm saying.
Okay.
Columbia Gas, Hancock Wood Electric, or Metronet, like you mentioned, they're doing work throughout the entire community that services the city in general. So,
So
and that's
you
why I
wanna-
said I'd just like some time to
Yeah.
think about what we're doing.
Potentially narrow that from all contractors to utilities? Or,
Well, that would be a start. But like I said, I'd just like some time to think about it.
Okay. All right.
And see what the issue is. And I don't know, maybe the contractors have a legitimate gripe about something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
Do we ever have contractors come into the city council and talk about, wouldn't they just typically address the engineer I don't know, but I'm not sure. I don't have enough history to.
Well, and sometimes they come in, like Metronet, or when they come in to announce a big project that's citywide, they come in and have 10 minutes or something. That's how it's been kind
maybe
of.
we could grant that on a special case basis
I
or
would,
something.
I wouldn't do that on every person that's just gonna, put down a new sidewalk or something.
Understand?
Make it an agenda item, then it's not part of the minutes, it's on the agenda. So are they typically,
Holly, please, just the committee and the law director. Please.
Okay, well, we can still consider that, so I don't know that we need to. All right, so I think next steps would be, receive comments at the next council meeting. Right,
From the general public.
from the general public and from city council. I think depending on what those comments were, we'd try to, incorporate those. I don't know, I guess, I don't know if we need another meeting if we had a lot of comments, to have another meeting just to incorporate comments, but,
We could fine tune the necessary at the next meeting.
okay. And then, I think, Dawn, we need your help with, of your department to craft the new language, right? There's a lot of content, a lot of changes. It's a rewrite, basically, I think, so we just need your support for that, just to take a red line copy and, so then the next meeting, I guess, would be, the next ad hoc meeting would be just to kind of finalize the draft for the pilot, if we're gonna do the pilot. Okay, so we're gonna finalize the draft, you know, and then we'd make this recommendation to council that here's our final draft that we'd like to pilot. So either council approves or disapproves or makes edits or whatever they want to do, right? Then we would begin the pilot for 2 months, try it out. At the end of the pilot, we would meet again. You know, we'd be receiving comments, I would think, during the 2-month time frame. Listen to the comments and then finalize it. And then I guess at that point, we'd have to resubmit it to council to finalize. Something like that, so.
I got a question for Don. Don, how, Dan, I guess the question I would have is, do you want a legalized rewrite of this that would be the actual ordinance that we would be adopting? Is that?
Well, it's not an
Next
ordinance,
step.
it's just committee rules, right?
Rules,
And- Yeah,
excuse me.
okay, yeah, right. Yeah, eventually, we're gonna need Dawn's help to.
Well, that's what I was wondering, where are you
Yeah.
gonna insert that? Would that
Do we-
be in
well,
the next?
Well, do we wanna
next
wait?
time around?
Well, why don't we wait until we get to the next council meeting, right? And then receive comments from the public and from council members. I don't know, it depends
okay.
on, I don't know how
I'm
much,
ready. I just didn't
it's
know how
hard to
you
say
saw
how
it.
much comment we're gonna get and whether we're gonna make, you know, is it gonna be another, because we might need another meeting just to take those comments and incorporate it and, you know, finalize, you know. Guess let's just wait and see. I don't know.
I'm fine.
Yeah.
Proceed.
You know what, Dan, in that, what is that, your last page of, I think it's your last page. Item number 11 there. Instead of, I think, change contractor communication, I think, to public utilities. That's typically who addresses us
Okay.
with those things. I think that'd probably be the way to go. Because usually it's stuff where they're having to work in the public right of way and
Yeah.
they're just giving us an update. It's not like they're lobbying on any kind of issue. So.
You good with that, Dennis?
I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Kind of narrows the scope a little bit.
okay.
I'm fine.
Public utility communications, okay. Well, motion to adjourn? You want anything else?
Denise had mentioned something about having agenda items submitted by a
Oh, yeah.
certain day.
Oh, yeah.
It's not-
Um,
She wanted it by Wednesday. I think Wednesday by noon. Is that right, Don? She wanted agenda items submitted.
that was in last week's
Yeah,
draft,
Yeah.
in the markup.
but I
So-
don't think we really discussed it much. I think Wednesday might be a little too early, but I know they need a certain
Dawn,
amount of
you had a
time.
concern about that too.
Yeah, I mean-
Wednesday versus Friday. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, sometimes when we're getting the things ready, it's kind of tough, getting the agendas around and everything. So I don't know what you're thinking about as time.
The alternative would be Thursday.
My thinking would be
Like a day later.
maybe Thursday by noon or Thursday by close of business, and then I don't know how much time she needs to get all that stuff finalized. I mean, she'd probably have a lot of it.
But you know
Yeah.
what happens then? You just add more, and we still have the same amount, but it's more. You know,
I mean, I kind of want to try to limit
and that's when-
add-ons that come up. You know, that meeting on
The
Tuesday.
sooner you
That's-
move it up, the more add-ons. you
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, that's trying to get a decent balance there. I think I think Wednesday at noon's kind of early, but
can. Well,
either
let's do Thursday.
I think Thursday at noon, or
Okay.
I think would work.
Okay. Okay.
If the committee members have no other items to address, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you. Oh, do we need a motion to continue discussion? Remember last time we had a, yeah, I'm sorry.
Hold on, yeah, we
So-
need to,
All right, so.
Need a motion
I'll
to-
make a motion to, wait, hang on, what are we doing here? So. Make a motion to continue discussion, receive comments at the next council meeting, and have the legal department draft new rules.
vote.
Aye?
Aye. Those opposed, nay. So no nays, 3-0. All right, we'll get that written up, and then
Okay,
I'll have this ready for Denise shortly.
okay. All right, thank you.
We are now adjourned.